Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Game Things. I'm your host for the week, Ming, and we're gonna start off our episode today by talking about Ubisoft, and more specifically, the current state of Ubisoft. Why do I say that? That's because over the week, Ubisoft has actually announced that they have cancelled 3 unannounced titles. Well, yes, 3 unannounced titles, that's not very impressive, so what's the big deal? You see, the problem now is that aside from cancelling 3 unannounced titles, which is, something that a lot of other developers do nowadays, they have also delayed their supposed pirate ship game, Skull and Bones. So, Skull and Bones has been delayed up to right now a total of 6 freaking times, which is absolutely crazy for a game that has been in development for a really long time. Now that Skull and Bones has been delayed again, it looks to be pretty bad for Ubisoft. Especially because Skull and Bones doesn't even have another estimated release window for the near future, which is actually pretty devastating. Does that mean that Ubisoft is moving resources to another game, or what's exactly the situation? We don't really know. But the only good thing about it is that Beyond Good and Evil 2 is still in development. Of course, same goes for Assassin's Creed Mirage. But here's the small issue. So Ubisoft has also mentioned that Assassin's Creed Mirage will be smaller and more intimate due to fans getting tired of the past games. Yeah, that is what Ubisoft actually said. So sounds kinda sus, because why would you make a game smaller? I mean, yes, having a smaller game can potentially improve the quality of the game. I don't deny that. Could it be because, they are kind of in a bad situation, so they need to move around their resources? I don't know. But in any case, let's just hope that things will look better for Ubisoft, and they will continue to produce banger games so that we as gamers can enjoy all the upcoming games as much as possible. Now, let's talk about our next topic, which is on Dead Space, specifically the Dead Space remake. So for anyone that is planning or has already pre-ordered the Dead Space remake, you will be able to get Dead Space 2 for free. And this offer is currently only available on Steam. So yeah, if you've never actually played Dead Space 2, which is a pretty good game, and you have the intention of actually getting the Dead Space remake, then I would say, why not? I mean, it's a pretty good deal. You get 2 games for the price of 1, so no harm, no foul. And I suggest you guys go and do it right now if you are interested in Dead Space 2. Next, we'll be talking about an upcoming title that is currently being developed by Riot Forge. So if you guys don't know what Riot Forge is essentially a separate development team, a third-party development team from Riot Games. And what they normally do is they create games that are based around League of Legends lore. For instance, the most recent The Ruined King RPG game. So Riot Forge has recently leaked that they will be creating a brand new game called Mage Seeker, a League of Legends story, which is focused on the character Silas. So if you guys don't know who Silas is, then I'll give you a bit of context as to who he is. So Silas is a mage that was put into prison in his kingdom because, well, his kingdom hates mages, but apparently the royal family's sister is, a mage herself, so he kind of fights against this sort of racism, I guess. So yeah, that's kind of the story of Silas, and this game is currently being developed by Riot Forge. So based on their previous track record of The Ruined King, actually the games Riot Forge make is pretty decent, and I would go as far as to say that, as of when this new game releases, you might want to give it a shot if you are into League of Legends, or in general just like some pretty good lore and a pretty good story. Speaking of leaked releases, there's apparently a rumor that there will be a remake of Metal Gear Solid. Well, it's still a rumor, but Metal Gear Solid is a really popular franchise, and I would say that, people would definitely love to get a remake of the game, considering that the game is very old. And, I personally have actually never tried out the game before, so I'm really hoping that, this rumor turns out to be true, so I can try out this game and actually maybe get a ton of fun out of it as well. Moving on with, more leaks, there's apparently a leak for the upcoming Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League game. And this game, well, might not be what it initially seems to be. So back then, when we received footage of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, the game kinda looked like, your generic action RPG game kind of similar to Arkham Knights, but based on the leak images, it might be a games as a service with battle pass, matchmaking, difficulty, and those usual things. So kind of like Marvel's, the Avengers game previously. In any case, it is still just leaked information, so we don't really know if it's true or not at this point of time. So what I would suggest is to actually stay subscribed to Game Things and make sure you like the video so you guys will be able to get updated on all these upcoming news in the future whenever it's released. Moving on from, leaked games, we'll now talk about an upcoming title that I'm actually pretty hyped up for, and that title is Black Myth WuKong. So we've previously covered this title before when they first released a pretty lengthy gameplay footage, and I would say this title is most probably gonna win Game of the Year for whichever year it's released. And based on what was announced so far, it is set to be released on 2024, pretty far away, but quality takes time, and I quite frankly don't mind that the game, takes an additional one more year to polish itself and release in a very, very good state. To top it all off, the devs of Black Myth WuKong has actually released a short film to celebrate this year's Chinese New Year. While the short film has no relation whatsoever to Black Myth WuKong, aside from, dropping the release date, it is still a pretty cute short film that, if you are interested, you should definitely take a look at it. Next, we'll be talking about a game that will soon be getting its updates, and this game in question is Bright Memory Infinite. So Bright Memory Infinite will be getting a brand new update which will include a third-person mode, a couple of game optimizations, as well as various bug fixes. To touch more upon this third-person mode, it's actually quite unique because how this third-person mode works is that you will not always be in third-person mode. Whenever you use ADS, skills, defense, or grappling, you would effectively revert back to first person mode, so it's still a hybrid mix of both modes. And I would say that this can actually lead to a pretty fresh and brand new experience for players that have actually played Bright Memory Infinite before, and heck, if you like the game enough, it might just be another entire playthrough that is completely different from your original playthrough. Moving on, we'll be talking about some titles that you can get your hands on right now, starting with a brand new title called Stencil. Stencil, which is currently available on Steam, is a Souls-like game, but the interesting thing about this game is that it's actually developed by one single person. So yes, while the quality of the game might not be like your usual AAA games like Elden Ring or Bloodborne, it is still a very, very good title based on some of the reviews that I've seen thus far. On top of that, there's actually a demo that's available as well, and that demo can basically give you around half an hour worth of gameplay. So if you are really interested in, Souls-like and you like to torture yourself, then I would say maybe give the demo a shot, and if you like it, get the full game. I really hope that you guys, show some support to this solo dev. Next, we'll be talking about our next title, Persona 4 Golden. So Persona 4 Golden will be released on Xbox Series S and X, PS4, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch. And alongside Persona 4 Golden's release, we'll also get Persona 3 Portable, available on those very same platforms, just that Persona 3 Portable will be available on PC as well. So yeah, for the Persona games, I don't think we need to cover too much on it because it's basically, ports of the original game. Really not much to talk about. If you enjoy the Persona series, you would get a blast playing either of these titles. Heck, if you really like JRPGs, I would suggest just get both because both titles have really good reviews. Moving on from Persona, we'll talk about another really popular JRPG, Fire Emblem, specifically the brand new Fire Emblem Engage available on the Switch. So Fire Emblem Engage is the brand new title in the Fire Emblem franchise, and I would say that Fire Emblem Engage has a pretty unique mechanic, and this mechanic in question is actually the Engage mechanic. So how does this engage mechanic work? So how it works is that in this new title, there will be 12 rings of power, and these 12 rings actually host the spirits, I would guess, of all previous protagonists from previous titles. So yeah, you have a lot of old faces coming back in this brand new title. So what exactly makes this new engage feature cool? Your existing protagonists, so your current party, can communicate with the old heroes, and aside from communicating, they'll also be able to fight alongside them, in the sense that all the previous heroes will be able to team up with your current party and give those characters exclusive skills and unique buffs. And of course, all these rings can be passed on to various different party members, enabling all your party members to have a wide variety of skill sets, which is absolutely great news. Aside from that, there's also the usual things like quality of life updates and a lot of brand new multiplayer game modes. From what I heard and seen from some reviews, the quality of life updates in general are actually very impactful, and it's definitely something that, you know, a lot of Fire Emblem players will definitely appreciate a lot. All in all, I would say that Fire Emblem Engage is a very new experience. While yes, the story might not be as good as previous titles, it is a completely different experience, and it's something that you should definitely try if you are interested in the Fire Emblem titles. Heck, even if you don't know anything about the Fire Emblem franchise, you can still give this game a shot, as it is just that well made. Moving on from Fire Emblem, we will talk about our last and final title releasing this week, which is Space for the Unbound. So this one is a bit different from our usual titles, because A Space for the Unbound is a pixel-based storytelling game where the premise is set in the 90s of rural Indonesia. So the story itself revolves around two high school sweethearts as well as some supernatural powers. So it's definitely a more touching and heartwarming game. So if you are into these type of story-based games, for instance like maybe Life is Strange, then this title would be perfect for you. And it is currently available on PS5, PS4, Xbox Series S and X, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, as well as on the PC. So that's all the titles that we have for this week. Next, we'll move on to some free games that you guys will be able to collect starting from this week. The first one that we'll cover is Epic Game Store. Epic Game Store is giving out Epi Story Typing Chronicles, so be sure to collect it right now. Next, Steam, surprisingly, is actually giving out a game called Friday the 13th Killer Puzzle. So make sure to get this game before the 23rd of January, as it will no longer be available after the 23rd. So do make sure to get the free game right now. Lastly, we'll actually talk about something that is slightly different before we end this episode. So this one is on a rather interesting thing that we came across, and it's actually on the Resident Evil franchise. So if you guys know about the Resident Evil franchise, Resident Evil 4 will be releasing soon, and in conjunction, or I would say to market the release of Resident Evil 4, Capcom has actually released a first aid spray that you can buy. And you might be wondering, why would you want to buy a first aid spray? Well, this is not actually your normal first aid spray, because this first aid spray is an actual drink that you can buy and drink. So yeah, I would say it's a pretty cute marketing tactic, and you know, if you are interested, maybe give it a shot. Anyways, that's all we have for this week's episode. Once again, I was your host for the week, Ming, and I wish you a happy Lunar New Year, and we'll see you guys in our next episode next week.